So we got a pretty cool guy doing the emceeing on the day for our lunch. Roy Keane, unbelievable. Who knew he was a rugby fan?
Poor man's Roy Keane.
How you doing, buddy?
Yeah, very good, Paul. Very, very good. Yeah. Getting excited now. It's Christmas has been and gone, and the big event is rolling closer. So yeah, so I am. I'm getting excited. The introduction and the compliment, cool, and the Roy Keane look-alike. I'll take that.
Well, and actually with those little scars, you're looking a bit rugged as well, mate.
Yeah, yeah. Hunting scars, bargain hunting. Concrete flags I got on eBay. A mishap.
See,
I'll
we all
explain it
think
all on the day.
we all think these like stars of stage and screen and live this just incredibly, privileged, wonderful life, and you're humping concrete blocks from Bury.
I'm neither a star of stage nor screen, but
Ah,
I do like a bargain, and we got a couple of horses where I live, and they need some hard standing, and I don't want to be
okay.
paying £10 a flag, and I don't want to be boring people about my flagging stories, but I got them for £1 a piece, Paul, and I paid the price.
I'm not sure that's true about you not being a star. Weren't you like FHM's best looking rugby player ever about 20 years on the trot or something?
You got Paul Sculthorpe coming to the do.
Handsome boy.
I'd never claim that title when Paul Sculthorpe's in the room.
Handsome boy. Yeah, absolutely. Um, so yeah, we just thought we'd have a chat because you're going to be like the face of this thing for the day. So I guess I asked you via Barry, thank you, if you'd come along. What was the sort of motivation for you wanting to come along?
Yeah, Barry had told me about being down at the event last year, and told me the causes behind the event, which are, I think, foremost in most people's minds, certainly in the rugby league, rugby union communities. The MND we're talking about here, of course, and there's a couple of things at play here, Paul. It's you do get, it's nice as well. You get asked and invited to many events, and happy to go and contribute where you can. But there comes times when you got to choose between events, and you got to sort of ration them out during the year. You got a family life, you got a professional life as well. This one had a double draw. It had the hugely important cause of MND support, raising funds for research, and supporting to people that are living with this, and also the quality of the people that were going to be going there. And I look down the list of attendees that you've assembled, and it's a place I want to be. It's an afternoon I want to be at, and if I wasn't hosting it, I'd want to be at the event. So there was two draws really. First and foremost, quite obviously the MND, and secondly the legends of league and union, in all sorts of capacities: players, referees, guys that have done coaching and are doing coaching now. So, and former teammates. I've got former teammates
Yeah.
from my rugby league playing days and my rugby union playing days. Jerry Flannery, I'm looking forward to catching up with, and Geordie Murphy as well, um, who I spent time in the Ireland squad with. So it's going to be a exciting day for me, and I want to make it an exciting day for those people that have made a financial contribution and decided to bring themselves as individuals or as part of a business to the day as well. Because while we all, get to go and enjoy the day and enjoy everybody's company, they're essentially the people who are digging their hands very deep into their pockets to raise money for MND research. So to all of those, I would say in advance, thank you, and I do hope to give you a great and very entertaining afternoon. And I do believe you'll get that with the quality of people that we have there.
No, I absolutely agree. Absolutely agree. And I'm so chuffed that you're coming, quite apart from the fact that you're a super lovely guy, but because you played league and union at the highest level, you'll be able to talk to both parts of the room as well.
Yeah, I played. I did. I think I was an imposter in rugby union, so I always feel humbled in rugby union circles, and in league too. To be fair, because you look down the list of players you've got from the world of rugby league, men's, women's, and wheelchair games. You can have World Cup winners there.
Yeah.
You're going to have people play in World Cup finals. You're going to just stars, and that's in rugby league. And then you flip on to rugby union, and with what's just happened last year with the Women's World Cup, what we've got coming up this year, which is men's and women's Six Nations, and of course the Men's World Cup in France. There's just so much to hook into, as well as reviewing the recently completed Rugby League World Cup in men's, women's, and wheelchair format. So there's so much to get into, but that's the sort of the rugby side of this. I think if I've ever gone to an event and watched sports stars from other codes up on stage and being interviewed, it's other things that I like to get out of it, not just whether or not they'll think France will win the Six Nations and New Zealand will win the World Cup. It's that has its place, but just to hear stories and lessons learned in sometimes these are people younger than you, sometimes they're much older than you, but just life lessons learned sometimes, and hearing them from somebody that's competed at the highest level can have a huge impact. And I always think that if people come as individuals or businesses to these events, they're maybe the greatest takeaways. Not that France are on a tremendous run and they'll be hard to beat in the Six Nations.
Yeah,
you can maybe get that on a Sky Sports News broadcast. Yeah, it's to give insight maybe that you wouldn't get if you were unless you were in a room and up very close and personal with these stars.
absolutely. Other news channels are available, folks.
Of course.
Yeah,
of course.
Yeah, Ben. I mean, Ben Kayser's coming along, and he was adamant that France were going to win the Six Nations last year, as he was proven. I'm pretty sure he's quite adamant that a home World Cup is on its way as well. But he speaks
they couldn't go in any hotter, could they?
Absolutely. But the guy speaks so kind of eloquently. He's really, really good value. I think for me, Simpson, for me, what that guy's overcome in terms of being a forces veteran, and then wheelchair rugby is brutal, eh? And then winning the World Cup is. I'm really looking forward to hearing from him.
I'm in no way trying to glorify what James has been through. I mean, it's to me, it's an horrendous. Of course, it's a horrendous experience, but to hear him tell the story of his time in service, I mean, he'll tell us on the day. I forget how he doesn't call it an accident. He has a different term for what happened to him when he stepped on an IED, and of course, it was life changing. Or actually, maybe he doesn't even use that term as well. He's got these fascinating terms for.
He says life. Is it life defining rather than life changing? Something like that.
Yeah, he does, but it's just to sit and listen to somebody that's been through such adversity, and to be talking to you with such positivity, with such a smile on your face, and that's what I was referring to previously. James is particularly unique in people that I've come across, obviously because of his history and his background. But you'll sit on your chair on that afternoon, and you'll be blown away by this man's positivity and his backstory. And I think that may be one of the greatest takeaways that people have from the day is the story and the hopeful outlook of James Simpson, the World Cup winner.
I think the other thing that hopefully people will get is that they're up close and personal. So everybody's got their own international host on their table, who will expect them to buy them the drinks, by the way, guys. But to sit next to Zinni, or sit next to Scully or JP or Claire Purdy and Sophie, who won the World Cup with England in 2014, that for me was the bit I wanted to make a difference compared to other dinners where us rugby Norsies kind of go, oh Brian, could you please sign this, and you get 2 minutes and then you move on. Everybody gets to spend time with these people, and they're all people which
yeah, that's one of the special features about this afternoon. You'll sit in an audience and you'll be entertained by people that are up on a stage sharing stories, imparting wisdom, offering up predictions, giving considered opinions on what's just been. But you'll also have, as you say, a former international star sitting right beside you on the table to enhance your experience that day. And then there'll be a lot of mingling, of course, afterwards. So It's not come in and at a distance take a photograph of somebody. This is going to be up close and personal with a bevy of stars from the women's game, the men's game, and the wheelchair game, and that's across 2 codes, so it's pretty special.
Absolutely, absolutely. I've got to ask you this, mate. Munster or Wigan? Come on.
Yeah, that's Munster or Wigan. What?
Well,
I enjoy my time more, which is a bigger club. What?
Well, they're both.
You got to frame this up for me.
Listen, I'm not the professional interviewer. You're the one who goes after the hard stories.
I'm not either.
I don't know. I mean, they're both enormous clubs, right? They're arguably the biggest clubs in their respective codes. And I know you spent more time at Wigan than you did at Munster, and of course, then you went down to play NRL. But for some of the biggest clubs in the world, if there was one with your heart, what would it be?
Oh, geez. Do you know? I couldn't pick one of them. The club I've felt most pride playing for in my entire life is my local GAA club back in Ireland.
There you go.
Vallymend, where I'm from. It's a bit. See, this is what, and it'll tie in with your Munster Wigan question. I played with guys at Wigan and at Munster who grew up wanting to play for that club. I thought that's just amazing. You were a kid in school playing a sport and you got to play for Wigan, and it might be somebody that wanted to play for Leicester or for Harlequins. And then when I went to Munster, there's people that all they've ever wanted to do is play for Munster, and they end up pulling on that jersey, and that's incredibly special. I was, as a kid, I didn't want to I didn't grow up wanting to play for Wigan or wanting to play for Munster. It was, my local GAA club, which was the big thing in the village. If you could get to play for them, and maybe play for the first team. That was going to be the highlight. So that's probably the one I've got the most attachment to. But it was a privilege being an outsider at Munster and at Wigan and seeing how much it meant playing for that club, for those people who have followed them since they were kids.
And to the supporters as well, right? I mean, again, two of the biggest supported clubs in the world as well.
I do get it. My time at Munster was bang average at very best. I loved being there. I loved the players, and I just wasn't very good at rugby union. I wasn't a whole lot better at rugby league, but I had a degree more success at Wigan. But I do get a great sense of pride having those names beside mine, saying in my career, that playing career, I got to play for a club the size of Munster, and I got to play for a club the size of Wigan, and then of course to represent internationally as well. And we're going to have a lot of international stars at the event, so that's and I'm sure they'll all tell you as well, sort of putting on the jersey and standing for your national anthem, it's, for me, it trumps it trumps really a club achievement.
Well, I have to say, mate, you're incredibly humble. I don't know many average players who get to play for Great Britain or for Ireland, so I think you may be doing yourself a disservice there.
Jamie Peacock or Paul Sculthorpe or Barry McDermott or Jordan Murphy or Jerry Flannery or Ben Kaiser, and they're all just from the men's game. And I'm in the presence of guys who, Craig Chalmers is going to be there. So Geordie's going to be there. These are all Sinzan Brook. I mean, I grew up in secondary school. I went to rugby union playing secondary school, and everybody knew the name of Sinzan Brook. And he's got a strong link with Ireland, of course. I think he spent a bit of time on exchange. I think, if my memory serves me correctly, I might be able to ask him on the day. And he played a bit of Gaelic football. And it's always, every time Sinzan Brook's name comes up in Irish rugby conversations, it's always is linked to the country that's pronounced. So look, these are legends of the game. So to be able to rub shoulders with them is a thrill for me.
Do you know, it only occurred to me a little earlier today when I was sort of finalising a few things, that on the men's rugby union panel, there are only 2 of the 6 on there that aren't British and Irish Lions, and that's Ben Kaiser from France and Luke McLean from Italy. We've got all the home nations have played British and Irish Lions. That's pretty cool.
Oh yeah, you got Daffy James going there. When I first signed for Munster, I think the first game I played was in Ulster, but the first Heineken Cup game that Munster had then was going to be against Llanelli in Llanelli, and I wasn't sure if he'd pick me. Thankfully, they didn't pick me, but I was doing my prep beforehand. It was going to be up against him, and he was always somebody I'd watched because I watched a lot of rugby union and always have done. I thought, oh God, I'm going to have my hands full if I pick to play against him. So he'll be something I'm looking forward to seeing as well.
Yeah, Daft's a great guy. Really, really, really great guy. Really great guy. We've talked about Zinni and we talked about Scully. So out of those two, if you pitch them two together, who's going to win that battle?
Yeah. Would Zinni have survived in the elite training year that Paul Sculthorpe had to go through?
Well, you're the one. You're the one that reckons union players aren't as fit as league players, mate. So
that's Eddie Jones, who we could talk about on the day and would take up probably the 4 or 5 hours that we're going to be there. So that's something we're definitely going to get into as well. You know, the Steve Borthwick and Kevin Sinfield from coming into coach England. Eddie Jones now, just as we record this, having just been announced as the Wallabies coach for the next 5 years, and going to take charge of Australian women's as well, I believe, in some sort of capacity. So this is going to be huge story to speak to the men and women about. Zinzan Brook, I mean, I think sometimes you get players in an era that can do practically everything. And I think Zinzan was that. And I think Paul Sculthorpe was that. I don't think they had a deficiency in their game, really. You know, they can kick, they can pass, they can run, they can tackle. There's few can do it as well as they could do it. All those different facets of each code. So you're looking at two very special individuals. Maybe Paul Sculthorpe could be the Zinzan Brook of rugby league, and Zinzan Brook could be the Paul Sculthorpe of rugby union. And
then you got Jodie Cunningham, who's played. You know, I think she said the only shirt she hasn't got for England is a prop shirt.
Yeah, Jodie's brilliant. I mean, Jodie does every position she's asked to play in. She does it brilliantly, and I'm glad you mentioned Jodie and the women's rugby league team. The English women's rugby league team. We'll have a couple of representatives, you know, current and former stars. Danica is coming as well. But they're on a journey, and the women's rugby league is on a journey. Women's rugby unions further down that path. How much further? I mean, that's up for debate. It's an interesting discussion, but you know, centralized contracts that have England sort of. It's almost like they've shamed the other home nations into handing out centralized contracts and upping their games when it comes to funding and resourcing the women's rugby union. So I think we can learn lessons, and the girls from rugby league that are coming on the day can learn lessons from their rugby union counterparts and see if there's words of wisdom, what advice they can offer, and how much the rugby union girls are enjoying this journey, because the pioneers before them, 10 years ago, 15, 20 years ago, we go back as far as 30 years ago or 30 plus when the first Women's Rugby Union World Cup was held, they would probably pinch themselves to see where it's at now.
Yeah.
And when we review the Women's Rugby Union World Cup, we'll be talking about record attendances, we'll talk about another New Zealand win, and the girls becoming global sports stars, which is,
absolutely.
It's remarkable. It's remarkable how quickly it's come about.
I'll be really interested to hear from Soph and from Claire, who won the World Cup in 2014 with England, and Vicky Fleetwood, of course, who also won it in 2014, and comparing sort of where they were in 2014 to where the rugby league girls are today. And Danica, it turns out Danica and Fleeto played together as well. So when they played union together. So yeah, there's lots of sort of nuances and interconnected.
They can be bystanders and observers of where the women's rugby league journey is at right now, but I'd be interested to see how surprised they are, or maybe surprised or underwhelmed they are with how far the women's rugby union game has gone in the 8 years or so since they won it in 2014 in France. So you know, they'll be able to offer a lot of insight. They've had to battle a lot, you know, and you speak to Jodie and you speak to Danica, and it's like rugby union from probably 30 years ago. Men's rugby union, where you're trying to claim some expenses when you're going to training, and you're training at night, and people have got to go to work, and you know, the men's that's well in the rear view mirror in the men's game, but you know, the women's game is still battling with that for a variety of reasons, and so it's good to get a reminder sometimes of how privileged the life of a full-time professional is. And I always feel when when I'm speaking to or interviewing stars of the women's game, they remind you of that pretty quickly, not intentionally, not deliberately, not directly, but you hear their story of what it takes to get ready and get to a training session. You go, all you've got to do is get to the gym and get on the field. There's no excuse for being late in the men's game.
Absolutely, absolutely not. It's going to be a lot for us to get our arms around, mate. And we got to do a little bit of eating and a little bit of drinking as well.
I can't wait, and I will say it again. This is, I mean, you've done tremendous work, obviously, in pulling all this together. But a day like this is made possible, and you'll know this better than anybody, by the people who put their hands in their pockets to buy tables, support the day, who will hopefully be very generous when it comes to both the silent and the live auction. We're going to have a raffle on the day as well, heads and tails competition. So all that money that those people will contribute on the day will go to the MND foundations, and it'll raise money, and we'll support as best we can and continue to support as best we can Rob Burrow. We will never forget the legacy of Doddy Weir, and do our very best to continue to financially support Doddy's foundation as well. And we'll have a very special guest in the room who will drive it home to us. And we'll let Ed Slater that how important the day is. So all of that's really important, and all that's made possible by those individuals and those businesses that have taken tables and taken seats, and who I'm determined to make sure go away having been thoroughly entertained at the home of rugby union here in England.
I don't think there's any question about that. And to your point, we say we got the who's who of rugby league and rugby union. We got the who's who of the property insurance supply chain as well. The support from those guys has been absolutely phenomenal, and everybody who came last year is coming again this year. And despite the fact that most of the country is underwater right now, these guys are still coming along. Which great shout. Thank you to everybody who supported us, as you say, who are putting their hands in their pockets to support MND.
And let's get them to get something out of the day as well. They'll get. It's my job to make sure they get plenty out of the guests that I speak to on stage. They're going to have their rugby union stars, rugby league stars at their table, and of course we'll mingle and mix and network as well. That sometimes is a word that comes with somewhat negative connotations, but that's part and parcel of the day as well. And some people can generate some business and make some contacts on a day like this. It encourages us to come back again, and that's on top of supporting this tremendous cause. So let's make it a win-win for everybody.
100%, mate. 100%. Thank you. Listen, really good to chat to you. Really good to chat to you. And I will see you in just over a week's time, I guess.
Can't wait.
All right, buddy. You take care.